Welcome to A Grief Observed. I'm your host, Chaplain Kevin Weaver, and I have with me today as a guest a very dear friend of mine, Miss Betty Stone. Hi, Betty. How are you?
Fine.
Now,
Thank you.
Now, and that's Betty Stone. That's not a rock, not a pebble, but a stone, right?
Right.
How I met Betty, other than coming in and out of Saltaire for the last several years, is her husband, Paul, came on hospice service, and I was the chaplain that attended to Paul. And there's a picture of Paul right there. Betty has him with her. Paul's with her today for her security. She's a little nervous, but we're going to get through this that way. Here, you can hold my hand. Squeeze. Oh, it's all sweaty. Now, Betty, tell me, how long ago did Paul die?
He passed away the 29th of June.
29th of June. So
last year.
Last year. So, yeah, it won't be long that it'll be a year.
Yes.
So, tell me, what was it like for you? Well, first off, how long were you and Paul married?
43 years.
43 years.
It would have been 43 years the 12th of September.
Well, we can call it 43. Close enough. Close enough. And actually, their meeting was quite fun. You guys are from, where are you from?
Michigan.
Michigan. And they both worked in like a machine shop or something?
Yeah, in Rochester, Michigan.
Rochester, Michigan. And Paul was kind of an inspector?
No, he worked on fixing machines. He was parts and that.
He was like the maintenance guy.
Yes.
And you were a machine operator.
Right.
And Paul used to walk by.
Yes.
Every day. And how did you meet?
Well, somebody gave me his telephone number and said, "You call Paul." And I thought, oh boy. But I called Paul and he knew who it was on that telephone. I said, "You know who this is?" He said, "Yes, it's Betty."
He could tell by the way the phone rang.
No, by my voice.
It's Betty calling. And so you called Paul and said, "Come over for dinner." And before you hung up the phone, he was there.
Almost.
So Paul, I can't really get in. We don't have time to get into why Paul was so important to you, because in many ways he saved your life.
Yes, very much so.
And so your marriage was one of, boy, dare I say, almost, I don't know if I should say hero worship, but it was a very deep love, a very profound affection, and a very, profound, I guess, because of the events leading up to your relationship. And so when Paul died, is it fair to say that a part of you died too?
Yes. I wanted to go with him. To tell you the truth, I wanted to go when he went.
Yeah. And
I knew he was telling me, no, you got a lot to do yet in your life yet.
And, that's important for folks who are watching today to realize. It's okay to want to go, to want to be where they are. That doesn't mean you're suicidal. That doesn't mean that you have a plan or that you're going to do yourself harm. But when relationships are so close, and when there's almost a sense of indebtedness, it's just natural to want to be there.
Yes, very much so. But he's with me all the time. I mean, I know he is, and he's the one that's been pushing me really through him passing away.
And that's actually really one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on and talk about this today, is because you've told me this a couple of times where you really feel like, though Paul is physically not present, that there's this spiritual bond that is pushing you, as you say.
Right.
Yeah. At times, do you feel his presence, hear his voice? I mean, what ways are you aware that he's still with you? Is it more than just a feeling in your heart, or is there something that is really tangible that you sense?
Oh, I feel he's right next to me. I mean, a lot of times I feel he's right there, and I can just talk to him. So.
And you have a little ritual before you go to bed every night, right?
Yes, I say goodnight to him. I have his ashes right there in our bedroom on my chest of drawers.
But they're in an urn.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Anyways, every night I kiss him and I say, good night, honey. Every morning I would go right to there and I say, good morning, honey, and I kiss him then. Every day.
Do you feel silly at all doing that?
No.
Yeah, Betty, I think that that's so very important that, when the bonds are very strong and the relationships have been very deep, I think it's okay to continue to express our love for a person, though they may not physically be here. Of course, the spiritual connection didn't stop. If anything, it was enhanced and became much more profound, would you say?
Yes, very much.
Yeah, and you told me that the sensations of Paul being with you and kind of encouraging you to continue and to move forward have brought you, I know one case in point, out of an area of comfort to do something that maybe you never would have done.
No, never, never, never.
And so with that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you, get your hat. This is
Granny Smith.
Granny Smith. Last year, just a few months after Paul died,
Yes.
there was a talent show at Salterra where Betty resides. And Betty entered that talent show as Granny Smith.
And I never done anything like that in my life before, to get up in front of a crowd and do what I did. And I did like a comedy act. Anyways, in my comedy act, his name, well, people have dogs and cats as pets. I have Rudy the Rooster.
Oh boy. Plug your ears, everybody. Here he goes.
Anyways, when I got done with my thing, I said, Rudy will be calling me, and he did.
So, what made you do this?
I do not, well, I'm going to have to tell you.
Say it.
Paul, when he'd shaven that in the morning and put his deodorant on, he always went like this to get the deodorant rubbing. And one morning I said, and he said, you silly goose. I said, well, you're doing that, and I thought it was a rooster. And that's where it all came from.
But you're feeling like it was really Paul's presence,
Right.
his encouragement, that sense of a deep awareness that brought you to this place of doing something that
I never
just wasn't
dreamt I
you.
could do it. Never.
I read a book, and the author of this book, her name is Hershua Hall McCormick, and she wrote the book Grieving: A Beginner's Guide. And she was not educated in the sense of she had no degrees in grief counseling or anything like that. But her husband died, and she wrote this book based on her experiences of dealing with grief and loss. And she said in one part of the book that she felt like once her husband died, she was brought to, that death brought her to the leading edge of a new frontier, new experiences to be had. As she said, a new frontier. And this has really, in a sense, redefined you. You've been doing, you've always been a crafter.
Yes.
But you've been doing more crafting. And I mean, you're putting your craft wares out by the dozens. And you've been involved in sales and helping other people with your crafts. Matter of fact, that hat that you got on, tell us about that hat. What's it made out of?
Oh, this is made out of Walmart bags.
Yeah, Walmart shopping bags.
Shopping bags.
Isn't that amazing? And Betty is a quilter. I mean, just an amazing person. Now, she's always been, in that respect, very talented. But now she's stepping out of that comfort and doing more things with those talents that kind of have, lay dormant, have been hidden.
Yes.
Maybe suppressed because of previous situations that Paul rescued you from, safe to say?
Yes.
Yeah. We're not quite out of time, but we're getting there. And I do want to put you on the spot. If you could don that hat again, give us a little I always call her Granny Appleseed, but it's Granny Smith. Give us a little bit of that routine, would you? What? Now you're on the spot. What comes to mind?
The clothes.
Here, you're on. Lights, camera, action.
You know you wear clothes all day long, right?
Right?
You get home, you take off your working clothes, you put on night clothes, right?
Right?
And then you go to bed with them night clothes on and you lay there all night long. Oh, something's bothering you. It's all these clothes that you're wearing that's pulling everything. You should go to bed nude, then you won't have to worry about a thing. No kidding. You wouldn't realize how good it is to sleep in the nude. Your body is breathing, your whole body. You're breathing there, but your whole body needs to breathe too. And we just lay there and you can hear it breathing. But sometimes you can't, because if you had hearing aids, you take them out, you don't hear it.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, Granny Smith. Now, that's not Betty. Betty would have never been that free and that outspoken. What a wonderful thing. It's not a wonderful thing that Paul died.
No.
Nobody wants that. And if we had our druthers, we'd keep them here forever.
I felt when I put this hat on, Granny Smith, I was a different character. I wasn't Betty Jean.
Yeah. And you know, folks, that's a nice escape. It's nice to, be able to step into a new person, a new adventure, a new frontier. And, well, there's a scripture, Betty, that says, unless a seed fall to the ground and is buried, it can't bear fruit. It can't bring new life. And that doesn't downplay the significance of who you were as Mrs. Paul Stone. But now there's a new Betty that's come forward. A new Betty that is full of life and has adventures in front of her and has much to share, much to give.
Better watch out, I'll start bubbling.
Betty can cry on cue. Ready, set, Betty. Betty, you're a wonderful human being. You're a wonderful friend. Betty lives at Salterra Assisted Living Center, and she's really a wonderful part of the fabric of that little community. She's an encouragement to others, and she's overcoming her grief. She's getting through it. Not going to get over it.
No.
The loss is always going to be there. On days that loss is going to be realized more than others. I know in being close to Betty that there are days that she barely can get around because of her own physical limitations. But she doesn't let it keep her down. When she feels good, she's off, she's running, she's on the move.
I say I'm going to keep on living even with what I have. And that's it. But I know Paul, he had Parkinson's, and I have MS. And we got it together, and that's unusual for two people to have almost the same thing.
Yeah.
But we worked together and never let it bother us.
You did it together.
Yes.
Well, folks, that's it for this segment. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Thank you all, and God bless you.
Thanks, Betty. Welcome back. I have with us this afternoon, Fran Damato. I'm fumbling over my words like I've never done this before. Fran was with us last month, and I brought her back because what I think I'm wanting to do with A Grief Observed is every second segment, I'd like to bring her on and maybe talk about the aha moment from the previous segment. Because if you're listening intently, and they're there, little things that people share of those certain awarenesses that they've received in the journey. And we did a little bit of an introduction to what an aha moment was last month. And so, Fran, you're back again. And so kind of refresh your memory. What are we talking about when we say aha moments?
Well, an aha moment is pretty much, it kind of sneaks up on you. And it's a realization that what you're doing is important. Not only important, but it's satisfying all the way around. It gives you satisfaction, and it makes you think, this is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it can be anything from nurse to chaplain to volunteer. It's that one moment that you say to yourself, I'm doing good. I'm doing something that's worthwhile, and you're happy that you're doing it.
What about, because when I think about aha moments, and I don't know if you're wanting or you're thinking about this as well, but could maybe like a deja vu moment be an aha moment, like I've been here before, I've done this before, and because I know when I have deja vu moments, it's like I've been here before, I've done this, and there's always for me a sense of peace and kind of a comfort or encouragement associated with it.
Absolutely, a comfort, because there's so many people that will go through their day-to-day lives and they're perfectly happy. Then they step out of their box and they do something, whether it be volunteering or just kind of helping out at a function. And then they step back and go, wow, that really felt good. And you become hungry for it. You actually wind up, it's almost like a selfish thing where you want more and more and more, because it does make you feel good regardless. And a lot of times what happens is the people that you're helping, you don't realize what impact you have on their lives and their families' lives, especially when we're dealing with a hospice situation.
Right.
And I actually have 2 photos. I've got more, but these are the 2 photos, and I don't know if you can see them.
They can zoom.
If you can zoom in to see these. But this one right here obviously is depicting an elderly man, and in the bathroom he's looking at in the mirror, and the mirror is showing him as a younger man, obviously years before. And it's kind of memory.
Oh, yeah.
And then this one right here she's actually gazing at herself and her younger self. And these kind of pull out that aha moment where it's when you're dealing with people that are older, you forget that they had a life, that they were fulfilled as a person in the community. And now all they have is to look back on those memories. So assisting them with remembering those things kind of gives them a little bit of joy. And that's a lot of what the volunteers and chaplains and the nurses do.
Well, our first guest, Betty, of course, maybe too much information, but she was talking about sleeping naked, and I told her as I walked her back to her room that she's going to have everybody at Salterra sleeping naked now. But her aha moments came from certainly reflecting back and remembering where she came from, but her past is not a happy past. And the death of her husband has actually, in many ways, propelled her into this new frontier or this new and redefined person. And I'm thinking more of if you've ever been to Owens Livingston Mortuary, they've got the statue of the little old lady going through the veil, and then on the other side, she's young and vibrant again. And one of the things we discussed was that veil. And I tried to get Ron, one of the cameramen that's back behind the scenes, to come on and talk with us. But there's 3 of them here, and they all chickened out. But we'll do it one time with them. Because their input is fabulous. They sit and listen, and they pick up things too. And he asked this question, and I think Betty alluded to it. Well, she didn't allude to it. She flat out said it was happening, that Paul, she felt like Paul comes to her and encourages her to go on and to do these things which are a new and, dare I say, improved Betty.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of that is in your heart. And when you think about the person that you lost or a person that is important to you, that excuse me, you have that conversation in your head. And I think that, and as a matter of fact, one of the aha moments, one of the volunteers was actually looking through paperwork and looking through some memories that she had. And she said that the one big thing is the satisfaction that she got that was the complement of helping their families, and then later on finding out that they themselves became a volunteer because of the way it made her feel. And her explaining this made them even more interested in doing that type of thing where you're giving of yourself. And I think that that desire to help comes through more than the depressing vibe that someone can get when you say, I work for hospice. The very first thing you get is, oh, really? And the thing is that people need to remember that what we do is we help people kind of navigate through that. So it's not an awe, and it's not a feel sorry for me or, oh, I have a really depressing job, because I don't, because the joy that's given to the family after their loved ones have made that final journey stays with you.
Well, the question was, in dealing with people who are close to death, do you get a sense, or do you feel like that there is a veil that they're able to maybe see through or have others come through? I mean, I know we're going quite existential at this point in time, and I don't know if you feel comfortable with that, but I mean, can there, in your experience, are you sensitive? Because, Ron asked me, and my answer was, I mean, absolutely, I feel like there is. And I describe it like this. Scripture talks about the veil between life and death. It's kind of like looking to a foggy mirror. In life, we can see shapes and images, but I feel like as we get closer to death, it's kind of like that new fresh air comes in and it begins to clear up that fog, and then we begin to start and see and maybe vacillate back and forth. Have you had those experiences?
Yeah, I as a matter of fact, I was filling in for a volunteer with a lady that was imminent, and she was about to pass. And I stayed with her until her caregiver came home, and then I had left. I got a call back from the caregiver that asked me, do you know Jen? Because as they looked through all of the information that this lady had, there was no Jen in her life. There was another lady that had come through with Jen. Jen happens to be my niece that we lost in 2003. She didn't even know a Jen. So it was sort of like a realization that your loved ones come through to you in sometimes odd ways and sometimes not timely ways. But I think that everyone that believes that, they actually feel that presence, and I've heard it so many times, where they actually feel the presence of their loved ones, and they feel that calmness, that it's okay. And a lot of times they don't need the people around them to say, Mom, it's okay to go. So
when dealing with death and then the grief of that loss that's associated with, could the showing up of the family member, could that produce that aha moment? Not just the realization, that everything's going to be okay, but that, they're there. I know this is a very difficult thing to answer, but so many people talk about it and they're all saying really the same thing. So, whether it's just the place in our minds that, are touched more or less in the sense of hallucinating, or if there really is something that's happening, I think it's fair to explore it and maybe attach a term to it. And I like the term, aha. I mean, yeah, I get it. They're there. I can see it. I can feel it. I can smell it. I can sense it.
There's a book David Kessler wrote. He's written several, but the one is Visions. And it actually talks about, and patients' stories about how they actually envisioned loved ones and made it. And like you say, I don't know if this is something that you yourself conjure up to have that smooth transition and make it easier for yourself as you're going and the people surrounding you. But regardless of how that comes about, I have seen it come about. So I think that that's one thing that leaves them with that final exhale,
Yeah.
you know, that it's okay.
Exactly. It's like taking a deeper breath. You can feel that cleansing, satisfying breath. And and I think it's fair and safe to go there. It's kind of in the same vein of, I've often heard it said, and when I was new to this field or industry of dying and death, I always thought, what I'll never do is I'll never offer somebody false hope. But I've learned after all these years that there's no such thing as false hope. There's hope. I mean, I'll never lie to somebody. You can lie to people, but hope, it's something, whether, as you said, conjured up in our mind or something that is very tangible and real that we can sense, if it gives us the strength, the courage, the fortitude to take that next step, then yeah, why not?
And I was over at Owen's mortuary this morning. We're doing the blood drive. And while I was there, one of the secretaries, her name is Shannon, she came out and we were talking. And they have that very large statue, and it's the old woman. And as she goes through the arch, she's young again, and she goes into Jesus's arms. And she said, and it was interesting that the people that it affected most of all were the children. When the children would come in for whatever, whether it be for a service or just, to make arrangements, they would come in and they were mesmerized by this. So the hope starts
Absolutely.
a long, long time before you're ready for that final journey. And it's that comfort,
Right.
I think, is
Right,
what
right.
everyone looks for.
Yeah.
Is the comfort for not only me, but for my family and the people who love me, and being able to know that they're okay and they're comfortable with what's happening.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Fran, our time's just about up. Thanks for coming and helping share with us and giving us a little more insight into aha moments. I tell you what, you guys that are listening, if you are watching, if you have some type of an aha moment, give me a call with that. If you want to come on and share it, or if you want to give me a call, my number, 928-358-2047. Call me. I'd love to talk about it with you. Maybe we can bring you on the show, or maybe I can just share with others your particular aha moment. Because really what it's about is just every one of us, human beings, encouraging, helping other human beings in this journey that we call life. Thank you for joining us today on A Grief Observed. We will see you next month.